Brittany region in the northwest corner of France is all set to once again host a significant day in the Tour de France. For the fourth time in its history, the city of Brest will be home to the Grand Depart when 184 riders line up to begin the 108th Tour tomorrow morning. Thanks for joining us, Paul Burmeister, alongside Christian Vande Velde and Chris Horner. Guys, it's wonderful to look to my left here at the end of June and see you as we welcome all of you to the beginning of our coverage of the 2021 Tour de France. Wonderful storylines out there from top to bottom. Which one are you looking forward to the most?
Yeah, I'm thinking of that Team Ineos. They got 4 leaders. Maybe 3, 2.5, let's say. How are they going to bring this down? Who's going to work for who? How are they going to get this that they are now in a position of being the underdogs as well? So trying to take down the Slovenians, Primož and Tadej.
Yeah, the 2 Slovenians, that's my story. Whether or not if they can come back and continue this domination at the Tour de France that they had from last year. They have held Ineos, the old Sky team that just dominated for almost a decade. They beat them up last year, and this year it looks like they're going to beat them up again.
Whatever those 2 Slovenians do, Tadej Pogačar and Primož Roglič, in this year's race will be directly tied to what happened in Stage 20 last year, the individual time trial. Tadej Pogačar somehow, almost a minute down to Primož Roglič, came back in that time trial, and at the end, he led by nearly a minute himself.
And this is the 5th time I've seen it this morning, and I still can't believe it. I mean, you look back at this and you think, this was not possible. And Chris and I sit here and we said, it's not possible. There's no way. I mean, look at this poor guy, Primož Roglič, coming across the line here. It doesn't even look like him. He's disheveled, completely uncharacteristic of himself, and a 21-year-old who had turned 22 2 days later, took all the money, yellow jersey, white jersey, polka dot jersey, all on the same day.
A year ago, Roglič, to many guys, as you remember well, was either the favorite or one of the favorites to win, whereas Tadej Pogačar was just a, hey, keep an eye on this incredibly young climbing talent. We'll see what he can do. How does his life change, not only for him but his team, now that he is the defending champion?
It has to change a bit. I mean, that's a lot more pressure. He's not the underdog. He's not going in there just look for stages and see what happens kind of thing.
Right.
I mean, he's won already, so he does have the experience. He's bad in 1,000. That's a good thing to go into. But at the same time, I think he's got to have some pressure.
Yeah, he's got to have some pressure. But the upside is COVID. And that sounds really funny and strange, but COVID made it that after you win the Tour de France last year, there's no appearances to do. You got your friends maybe calling you, but all of a sudden you're not getting pulled left and right. You're not gaining weight because you're at parties and appearances and eating and drinking. You're not partying. You're not putting on 20 pounds like G. Thomas. Okay? So COVID is the big help here.
More on G. Thomas and Ineos coming up in just a moment. But both of these Slovenians, Tadej Pogačar and Primož Roglič, will have Americans playing significant roles. We got to know Sepp Kuss very well last year. What a success his Tour debut was. Wonder if we're going to say the same about Brandon McNulty in 3 weeks. He is a major helper for Tadej Pogačar as he tries to defend his title. Christian, I know you know him from way back when. What should we know right now?
I think just he's got everything to prove for himself, first and foremost, and then his team. But he's, again, back to the pressure. He's a lot of pressure. You go in your first year. It's the same thing like Sepp, though. But I think he could do it. He has the engine, like a big, big engine. He could do everything from time trial to climb mountains. His mountain climb is getting better and better. I think that's the biggest question mark in my mind. I'm pretty sure yours as well, is how deep he go into the mountains and help out Tadej.
Spot on. Last year's Giro d'Italia, he was solid for the first 10, 14 days in the mountains, too. Earlier this year in the season races, he was race leader and solid in the mountains, but then had some spotty moments. Dauphiné, just a couple weeks before now, he was bad, then good time trial, then good sprinting, and then bad in the mountains again. So coming in the Tour de France, can he be solid for race leader Tadej Pogačar, last year's winner at the Tour de France?
You mentioned the Dauphiné. I think about the Swiss, the traditional build-up races that these contenders take part in. Well, cutting against the grain is Primož Roglič. He didn't race in either one. In fact, guys, he hasn't competed in a race in nearly 2 months. He's been training with his team primarily at high altitude in the Alps. Chris, how do you feel about the non-traditional approach that Primož has taken to coming back and trying to win this time?
I like it. I don't have any problems with it. Throughout my career, I've done all the races. I've done Dauphiné before the Tour de France, Tour of Swiss before the Tour de France, and I've done the Slovenian Tour just before I did the Tour de France. And then 1 year went straight from Tour of California in May and arrived at the Tour de France. No problem, good form, and ready to go. I do worry a little bit about stage 1 and 2, but once he gets through that, no problem.
Yeah, same here. I mean, it's kind of like not sparring with anyone. You know, you go in the first day, you're going right into a cage match. you want to be a little bit ready, race savvy at least, going into that first day. So that's my biggest concern, just with you, Chris, the first weekend. If he gets through that, of course. The engine's going to be fine. It's more like rubbing elbows, thinking about hearing the crash, the carbon on the... I'm glad I'm sitting here.
A name that's come up, a team name, just a little bit. Now we're going to dive in fully, and that's Team Ineos. A little different this year. They are not the defending champions. They had won 5 in a row before Tadej Pogačar of UAE won it last year. They did that with 3 different riders. They had won 7 of the last 9 tours, going all the way back to Bradley Wiggins in 2012. So their response to saying, we're not going to let this happen again, 3 Grand Tour winners are favorites, are possible leaders. They all line up for Ineos, but yet, as we talked to them in this last week, they will not name a leader yet. Do you like the approach of the, hey, wait and see which one of these guys is going to be the strongest?
I mean, it's not common for them to do that. Usually, all the way back to Bradley Wiggins, you're always for 1. And now you're having 4? Okay, they did go with G and Froome the one time, and that was a good play. But 4? I don't know. I mean, that's a lot. But, what else are you going to do? This is the cards that they have right now, and that's what they have to do. So they have these riders. The only one they're missing is Egan Bernal right now. All so with these guys that they have to see what's going to happen in 21 days.
Right. When you got 4 race leaders and you're starting the first Tour de France and it's a week long before you start getting into the mountains, you have to have your fingers and toes crossed the whole time, because now you don't have the domestiques to keep them out of the trouble areas. Now, when we're used to seeing them win when they're at the front before the difficult moments the whole time, last year you see they're at the front with 15, 10K to go, and then they get swarmed by Jumbo-Visma. Now they're in the dangerous spots. So you got to have fingers and toes crossed that there's no crashes or accidents or splits in the crosswinds for possibly all 4 of them.
With Ineos and what used to be Sky, there's obviously the brand of what they've done the last decade at the Tour. You also have the here and now of how incredible they've been. The last 4 stage races they've entered, Ineos has won. Now, Christian just mentioned that Egan Bernal will not be a part of this, but you add Theo Gegenhardt to those other 3, and I'm wondering, who do you think will emerge as the guy?
I mean, this is rough because, I have to say Geraint Thomas. But the only thing with separating Geraint Thomas being there is hitting the deck. And I do not want to say that, but it's the truth. Geraint Thomas shares a little bit of the same kind of lack of savvy that I have on the bike. I found myself on the ground quite a few times. And, it's inevitable for a lot of these riders out there going through this first week. I mean, this first weekend is going to be nuts. And so just for him to get through there, if he does get through there, I think he is the guy that should be gunning for that yellow jersey.
Richie Porte. He could time trial, but he can't go downhill through the corners. So we know that's dangerous for him. Geraint Thomas, he could possibly take himself out in a meaningless crash. Richard Carapaz can't time trial. On the side of Ineos, they have great strategy, great tactics, but now they're coming in here with 4 leaders. I don't know if that's a good tactic. And then you look at the Slovenians, they can time trial, they can go uphill, and they can all ride their bikes downhill. They're the complete package. So Ineos is... there's a lot of doubt there.
There's a lot of big picture talk here and discussion with Ineos, with the 2 Slovenians who were 1 and 2 last year. Let's focus in on now what's coming tomorrow on stage 1. It's not a mountain day, but it's not flat. A punchy finish at the end that kind of opens the door for what we see is, and I think a number of people see, is 4 candidates to win. Making his debut, Mathieu van der Poel, creating a lot of discussion. Never a bad day for Julian Alaphilippe to go for a win like this. Peter Sagan did not win the green last year. He'll be highly motivated. Wout van Aert, such range to his talent and his game. This one could be in his wheelhouse as well. A little more on Mathieu van der Poel. He is the grandson of Raymond Poulidor, Tour de France legend from the 1960s. Never won the Tour itself, but a multiple stage winner who passed away in 2019. So a lot of eyeballs on him tomorrow.
Yeah, and he never wore the yellow jersey, which is incredible. I mean, this is a guy who finished on the podium 8 times. He would have had to, avoid it like the plague. I mean, so for him to think, that'd be Matthew, his grandson, to go for the yellow jersey, oh, man, I got goosebumps just thinking about that. I mean, this is Hollywood.
And remember, it's in the family blood. It's just not the grandfather, but his father raced 2 successfully. Won Liège-Bastogne-Liège, which is the hardest one-day race, in my opinion, in the world. And so the family blood of cycling, it's running deep. To come in here, stage 1, the pressure, he races for a small team, but they've been winning all year too. So the pressure to deliver that win is going to be high for Mathieu van der Poel.
I've seen and heard the name Julian Alaphilippe quite a bit. I've even heard that it's perfectly set up for him stage 1. You agree?
Yeah, I mean, but can't say the same thing for Van der Poel as well. But Julian Alaphilippe, we all love to watch him. I mean, think about what he's done to this race over the last couple of years. He's made so many different fans. He just became a father. He's starting to mature a little bit. You know, and not just the stages, but what can he do for the GC as well? He's fast, he's strong, he can get over mountains, he can time trial. I mean, there's really not too many things he can go, and he is a showman, Paul. He loves a show, so sometimes he doesn't do so well in the smaller races, but when there's a lot of people watching, you better watch out.
The only thing he can't do is stay calm.
Yeah.
I mean, he is all over the place. You see him at the back talking with riders, and he's still swinging his bike all over the place, dancing on the pedals. So the only reason that keeps him from racing for general classification, he can't stay calm, he can't stay patient. He needs to put on a show, like you say, Christian, and he loves to put on a show, and we like it. So keep doing it.
That's
so
right.
stage 1, stage 2, absolutely ideal for him.
In yellow, 17 days the last 2 years for Julian Alaphilippe. The other couple names we're really watching closely, you saw their pictures there. Peter Sagan, he did win the green jersey at the Giro, so he's on very good form, apparently. And Wout van Aert said specifically he's here in large part to win stage 1 and also hopefully get yellow for his team. Let's bring it back to the top. The two names that we started out with, last year's champion Tadej Pogačar and the runner-up Primož Roglič. What are the chances we see one of those two guys or maybe both of them going for the stage win tomorrow?
Absolutely. They have to. You can't afford to lose any time here at the Tour de France. We see last year it's won by a minute. So you're talking 3 weeks of racing, a minute gap wins the Tour de France. You can't afford to be giving up the time bonuses on tomorrow's stage and stage 2. And then on top of that, have little gaps that cause you to lose time too. When I won the Vuelta on stage 4, I had 1.2 second of a gap, and it cost me 6 seconds on the lead, and I lost the jersey.
Yeah, it happens all the time, and as we're seeing the years go on, it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So no, you cannot afford to lose any kind of time, especially on a stage like tomorrow. But I think when it comes down to pure horsepower, these guys are just as fast, if not faster sometimes, than Julian Alaphilippe. So if they're in the right position, of course, there's no doubt about it that Tadej could be there, Primož could be there, Geraint Thomas could even be there. So it's going to be a great race to watch because so many people come into the fold.
Stage 1 always is kind of a white-knuckle ride. I only know this from listening to you guys talk about it and kind of feeling how nervous you get just watching it. Also, the possibility of rain tomorrow brings to mind the scenes we saw last year in stage 1 with the rain to go along with all those nerves.
Oh, why do we have to remind ourselves of what this actually looks like? I mean, hopefully it will not be that bad. But yeah, last year was absolutely horrible. You see Angel Lopez flying into the sign. Somehow he got back up onto his bike. They actually did a ceasefire for a little bit. Tony Martin got to the front, as you see him there, stopping his team car, and then the racing was back on. There was another massive crash going right under the 3-kilometer go banner. So it was chaotic. A lot of races were ended on the first stage. Let's hope it's not so nuts tomorrow.
So hopefully exciting, but not containing scenes like this.
No. We don't need to go that far.
Yeah, we don't want to lose any of the GC guys. Maybe cause some little splits here or there, add a little drama for us.
A little excitement, yeah.
But let's not just go ahead and take out GC guys on stage 1.
Oh, I advise these two and invite all of you with us now watching to get some rest tonight because we start very early tomorrow. It is 6 a.m. Eastern for the start of stage 1 in the city of Brest. That is where the Grand Depart will take place. And the stage will begin shortly after we come on the air at 6 a.m. tomorrow. Hydrate, rest, fellas. We will see you in just a little bit. We hope you can all join us for the beginning of the 2021 Tour de France.